We are going to encourage you yet again. We had a good response last time, but encourage you to ask questions via the Q&A facility. There's a Q&A facility at the bottom of the screen. And if you can put your questions there as you go, we'll have some time after some of the speakers have spoken, and also at the end of the session to answer those. And if we're not able to answer your question today, please be reassured we will be responding to all questions that are asked. So hopefully that's okay. So firstly, I'd like to introduce our panelists briefly, and then, as I say, we'll move on. So firstly, I'd like to introduce on the panel, I say we've got Kevin Bland. Kevin is Director of Partners and Alliances for Red Hat. Kevin will give us an overview of what and how Red Hat are helping clients and their products and solutions, and sort of really bring us into you know, the sort of introduction of automation, and as that's working in today's world. Following on from Kevin will be Neal Evans, and Neal is the Business Development Manager for Red Hat. And Neal will give us a more detailed look at Ansible, which is Red Hat's product and automation toolset. And as I say, that will be a really interesting sort of part of today's session, and give us a real good understanding of how we can actually use these sorts of products. Joining me on this virtual stage is also Darren Carroll. And Darren is the Client Relationship Director for QA. QA and Darren are working and developing QA's talent pool of skills and resources, including automation. And as I say, we'll hear from Darren's sort of perspective of how that's impacting the world of, as I say, developing skills for these solutions. And finally, we've got Gowri Balakrishnan. And Gowri is a solution architect with Wipro. Based in this country, Gowri brings experience of how Wipro's broad client base and service integration activities are adapting to the needs of automation. So again, thank you very much indeed, Gowri, and the rest of the panel for joining me. And as I say, we'll hopefully get a good conversation going about this. So basically, to begin, I just would like to sort of introduce Red Hat. Red Hat are leaders in automation solutions, and as partners of Simplex, we're privileged today to hear how they are addressing the challenges for automation. And to kick this off, I'd like to hand over to Kevin. So Kevin, over to you.
Oh, thank you very much, and thanks to Simplex for providing this platform for us, and thank you to everybody who took the time, taken the time to turn up today and listen to this piece. So really appreciate it. And the reason I wanted to do a little bit of an introduction was that it's not always obvious the why Red Hat piece. So a lot of people are very familiar with open source, and a lot of people will know that open source is available to download and use within the terms of the licenses, you know, within reasonable terms, free of charge. So why engage with an organization like Red Hat? Because surely you can get everything we talk about today, you can get from free out there in the community. So there's a couple of reasons for that, and I wanted to kind of lay them out. The first one's simple, which is, you know, we care passionately about our customers, and we care about helping them with the things that we feel we can address. And we do that by taking the building blocks from the community, taking the elements of code that have been produced in open source by the community, piecing them together, and then making a solution. And we're going to be talking about one of those today, which is Ansible. So we do that. But we enterprise grade it, we harden it, we make sure that it works, and we test it on multiple platforms and environments that are most commonly used by our customers. So that's a step further than community software. But you know, you can still argue that we push that back out into the community, and that's still available for you to use as a customer. The second important thing is that unlike proprietary software companies where you're buying the code from them. They keep their code very undercovers. They don't want to expose the source code to the world because that's their crown jewels, right? And but as such, only the developers they employ can work on it. So their innovation, their agility, their speed of bringing new versions to market and new features to market is very much limited by the number of employees that they can have on their books that are responsible for developing. We have hundreds of thousands of people contributing to our code every minute of every day. And most of those are actually our customers who want innovation. They want features added into the feature set. And they're bringing that to bear with their own resource and time and effort. What we're doing is we're taking the selected pieces that we know that many customers want, and we're hardening them, we're enterprise grading them, we're putting them into the product, and then we're making them available for you. But again, I've said it again, let's come back to that question, why Red Hat? There are kind of three main things which you don't get with a community product that is important to you as an enterprise customer. And the first one is operational uptime. If you take something from the community and if you use it within your IT organization, who do you call when it goes wrong? One of my distant backgrounds, I used to be an IT manager for Kelly Services, recruitment agency that had 90 branches around the UK. And I can tell you that I didn't want to be the last person that got called when there was a problem. I wanted to be able to call someone else and ensure that someone else was dealing with that problem for me. I didn't want to reach out into the community with a flag or to show my age, put something on a bulletin board and hope somebody would come back to me with an answer. I needed a company that I could call on to do that. So Red Hat offers that availability. They offer the uptime, we offer the support capability, and we'll fix the problems and we'll patch if need be. So we take that responsibility as an organization, so you don't have to take that risk as an organization. So that's IT, operational uptime. The second one is security. Open source code is visible to everybody. You can see the source code, and that means that anybody can contribute to it at any time. And those contributions could be appropriate, they could be inappropriate, they could be purposefully putting bad code into the code. They could accidentally put bad code into the code, and it's usually accidental if we're going to be honest with each other. But how do you check for that? How do you know which building blocks go to make up that big solution that you're deploying within your organization that's made up of open source? How do you know what the building blocks are? So you have a couple of choices. You can take responsibility to monitor those building blocks and find them and list them out and go to places like the National Vulnerability Database and identify vulnerabilities that you need to patch. Or you can rely on a company like Red Hat who do that for you on a daily basis. We know exactly what's going into the product. We're checking those components at every turn. We're looking for fixes where we know there's security vulnerabilities, whether they're purposeful or accidental, and we're fixing them so that you have a secure product at the end of the day. So your DevSec teams are going to worry about, the security of your code and the applications you're using. We care about that for you. And then the last point is compliance, which is, every open source component, every building block that goes to make up that solution has a license associated with it. Some of those licenses are quite restrictive. You can't use this if you're in the nuclear industry, or I've seen a fun one, which is if your name is Dave Smith, then you can't use this because I used to go to university with you and I really don't like you. Or, if you use 20 copies of my code, you have to send me a Strat guitar. Or one of the most fun ones that I like to share, which is the very famous, if you're in the open source community, chicken dance license. And this is YouTubeable. You can go and look at this. And there is a license code out there that a lot of developers like to use just for the pure fun of it. And it states that, I'll get the numbers wrong, but it's something like if you use 1,000 copies of our code, your CEO has to stand up and do the chicken dance. Here is the music to dance to, and here's the dance steps you need to follow, and you need to put it onto YouTube. And then you're compliant with our code. And there are examples out there of companies that have actually had to do that because they don't want to be out of compliance, and it's cheaper to get the CEO to do the chicken dance than it is maybe to fix the problem in the business and remove thousands of copies of a component. So just a bit of fun for you. But at the end of the day, there's a serious message, which is your compliance team care that you're in compliance with the licenses for the code that you're using, whether that's a proprietary application or where it's a bit of open source. And you will not know the thousands upon thousands of components that go to make up a single piece of code. You'll not know all of the licenses that go with that code. We worry about that for you. If you do get in breach at any point in time, if a piece of code does seep in there that belongs to a proprietary company accidentally, we'll take responsibility to ensure you for that situation. We'll protect you and we'll stand next to you, if worse to worse happens. The alternative is you take that responsibility yourself. So there you go, a real sharp shot reason of why Red Hat, and I wanted to share that because it's not always obvious when you're talking to an open source company. We are a commercial organization. We need to be commercially viable, but mostly because we need to be able to serve you, our customers. And a lot of the things that we produce that go back into the community wouldn't go back into the community if we didn't make money as an organization. So there we go.
Thank you.
So Paul, hopefully useful.
Yeah, that's really good. Thank you, Kevin. That's a really good introduction. I don't know whether you got me worried or not now, as I've certainly done and signed a lot of contracts in my time in IT, but I've never read anything about a chicken dance. So hopefully I haven't done something that I wasn't aware of. But we'll look into that. I'm going to pass over to Neal now. Now, Neal, as I say, welcome to Neal. Neal's going to actually take us a little bit more into detail about Red Hat's Ansible product. So, and this, as I say, I think will be a really interesting part of the discussion today. So, thank you, Neal, and over to you.
Great, thanks, Paul. Thanks, Kevin. So, I'm going to share a presentation which I'll go through. It's not 1,000 slides. Which I'm sure everybody is pleased to hear. It's really just an introduction to Ansible automation and a little bit more about Red Hat. So Kevin set the scene for what open source is and what Red Hat is, but I'm going to talk about automation. And I think that when looking at automation, it's important to understand that the challenges we see in enterprise IT today really are twofold. We've got infrastructure sprawl, and the pace of development is definitely accelerating. And proactively supporting and securing these business trends has been complicated by technical debt, siloed teams, especially at this time, and flat or even shrinking budgets. Now, until these challenges are addressed strategically, IT can be seen as inhibiting innovation and even governance. The position at Red Hat, as Kevin touched on, is that modern transformed organizations are leveraging open source technology and culture to efficiently scale expert knowledge while also helping you remain agile and independent. So as Paul and Kevin introduced me, my name is Neal Evans. I'm a business development manager with the UK Partners and Alliances team at Red Hat. I report and work for Kevin. And over the next 15 to 20 minutes, I'm inviting you to explore your IT automation journey and how you can achieve and simplify end-to-end IT modernization, coordinate processes to accelerate business outcomes, and do it in a collaborative way that invests in the most critical resource of your organization. And that, of course, is your people. As an introduction, for those not familiar with Red Hat, our strategy and vision for our portfolio of software, tools and services is designed for future architectures that are open, secure and agile across the hybrid multi-cloud. The portfolio is divided into 3 pillars, and the third is where we're going to focus today, which is around management and, most importantly, automation, and how to easily and seamlessly integrate and manage these platforms and automate across hybrid environments. The other 2 tiers, which may be of interest, and if they are, please speak to Deb and the team at Simplex afterwards, are hybrid cloud infrastructure, which shows how we're delivering and leading the way in public and private clouds, deployments across bare metal servers and virtualized infrastructure, and also cloud native app platforms, which focuses on our container package, which is OpenShift, and also our middleware and services. As Kevin said, Red Hat is so much more than just Linux, and Simplex and Red Hat will be happy to talk you through more and more about what we're doing. So the question to ask about automation and modernization is, where do you want to go? Or perhaps, how do I get there? At Red Hat, we really see 2 routes. You've got connected teams accelerating digital transformation, which includes accelerating speed to market, fostering a DevOps culture, scaling hybrid cloud environments, and addressing infrastructure stability and, most importantly, compliance concerns. And secondly, with coordinated automation, you can reduce inherent inefficiencies whilst lowering end-to-end production costs, minimize errors and downtime, reduce complexity in IT environments, but also eliminate security vulnerabilities and decrease mean time to repair. A good automation strategy, or dare I say it, automation platform, will unite teams and eliminate siloed operations, and importantly, foster a collaborative DevOps culture. All this and make tasks easier to automate. Automation empowers IT to be a better partner to the business, and by doing so, shows greater value. I ask you, think about where your teams are today. Are you able to efficiently achieve these things? So the questions I hear all too regularly really are, how can I do this? And what is out there to help me? Well, I would like to introduce you today to Ansible Automation Platform. And throughout this short presentation, I want you to listen for a common thread, and that is how Ansible Automation Platform simplifies collaborative and coordinated automation across your entire IT infrastructure. I'm really, really excited about how Ansible improves efficiency, increases productivity, and also controls risk and expenses. And please, if you've got any questions, please feel free to ask them as I go through the slides. So thinking back over what I've said so far, I think what I should add is the last layer to this puzzle is how to engage efficiently. And that, I believe, is truly a differentiator for Red Hat. Our customers have been asking us, how do we get knowledge of what is being automated? How can we enhance collaboration? How can we increase trust? And can we even further accelerate time to value? So let's have a look at how Ansible allows you to break down siloed operations with a single tool. You can create tasks with Ansible Engine. It provides a universal language to automate holistically across diverse areas, including operating systems, network, or cloud. You can operate and control at scale with Ansible Tower, with an easy-to-use user interface and dashboard, with features which include role-based access control, job scheduling, password vault, and graphical inventory management. And finally, Ansible Automation allows you to engage users with an automation-focused experience, where tasks can be simplified and accomplished via the previously mentioned GUI and RBAC. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say that this is all fueled by the open source community and the collaboration which we see coming from there. Now, it's not just operators and admins who believe that open source is important, and it's not just those guys who say that IT automation is key to success. The market research company Forrester believe automation is a key strategy for leadership to achieve digital transformation. They recently recognized Red Hat as one of 4 leaders in the highly competitive infrastructure automation wave, the others being BMC, Microsoft, and VMware. And I'll come back to one of those competitors a little bit later on. Now, Chris Gardner, who is Forrester's lead analyst on the wave, tells clients if they are trying to achieve digital transformation but insist on having multiple tools, they'll continue to face challenges. That is why his last comment is so powerful. Red Hat is, and I paraphrase, best for customers that want a holistic solution to rationalize out unneeded tools. It is also worth noting that Red Hat is the only solution in the wave that is exclusively harnessing the pace of innovation from the open source community. By leveraging this, we leapfrog our competitors and give customers the freedom to remain independent and agile in this multi-vendor heterogeneous world that we find ourselves in today. But who buys Red Hat Ansible Automation Platform, or as I'm going to refer to it from now on, purely as Ansible? Well, I wish we could list all of our customers, but here are some key accounts that we're able to showcase. Many of them are case studies on our website, and I'm going to highlight just 3 of them on this presentation today. Swisscom, NetApp, and the British Army. So Swisscom, as I'm sure everybody is aware, is the major telecommunications provider in Switzerland. Since acquiring Ansible to help them in their automation, they've been saving in the region of 3,000 hours a year in manual operating system tasks. And if you equate 3,000 manual hours a year manually into the cost of the guys who are going to be deploying that, that is a pretty quick return on investment that they're seeing there. What they asked for and needed was a single tool for enterprise-wide IT and network automation. And they're using Ansible to automate management of around 15,000 components, including servers, firewalls, network devices, and storage devices. The Ansible usage is allowing the Swisscom team to really concentrate on other valuable projects and accelerate response times for resource requests. Great use case. NetApp. So NetApp's an interesting one. They are a certified automation partner, meaning they are actually involved in helping us deploy and deliver some of the content within Ansible. But they're also using Ansible for their own environment. And they reduced app delivery times from weeks to minutes in their own environment by using Ansible. To quote from the case study, Red Hat Ansible automation was well suited to templating the configuration files we needed for our NTP updates to speed and automate the project. Once we saw what it could do, we started to see automation opportunities everywhere, and their use is growing phenomenally. And finally, the British Army. The British Army is quite dear to me. I've been involved in the project that we've been working on there over the last 4 years, and I presented with a few of the British Army guys on occasion. Now, what they were trying to do was something quite unique. The British Army has a global requirement for deploying automation. Its Information Application Services branch, or IAS for short, delivers software applications, hosting, and web services across the globe. And with simplified automated management through Ansible, IIS can deliver changes faster and more efficiently. In addition to the new environments, they've completely eradicated the usual manual sort of error stream tasks that were occurring on a day-to-day basis, especially when you look at the type of guys who are having to deploy some of these applications, because the British Army will have a young squaddy join, and he is pretty much tasked with doing a job straight away from day one. By using automation, they can put anybody onto a task and deploy, and it doesn't matter where they're delivering it to. They've got 3 clouds: public, official sensitive, and secret. And by leveraging tools such as Password Vault, they can make it easy for even the novice soldier to an experienced admin to deploy any changes to any of those environments at any time. But these and many more case studies can be seen on the Red Hat website. But as you can see from the names on the screen in front of you, we've got many household names as Ansible customers across all vertical markets. So Ansible automation platform, Ansible, is fueled by open source. It provides holistic automation, breaking down silos. You can accelerate, collaborate, trust, and inform. Everything you need is in one easy to consume SKU, available in 2 support offerings. We have a standard solution, which is business hours, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, or we have premium support, which is 24/7/365. You can accelerate content collections, collaborate with Automation Hub, trust with the provided certified content, and inform with automation analytics. But what do all those things mean? So November 2019, 1 year ago, which is hard to believe it's a year ago now, but 2020 sort of seems to have compressed everything a lot. We brought all the disparate offerings of engine, tower, and networking into one easy to consume offering, and we provide additional functionality with collections, which allows you to build and consume Ansible content, including playbooks, roles, modules, and plugins, meaning flexibility and scalability are greatly improved. Content packages gives us focused content targeting key automation use cases from Red Hat and certified partners. Partners including Cisco, Dell EMC, Dynatrace, F5, IBM, Microsoft, the previously mentioned NetApp, and Pure Storage. Automation Hub provides a private content repository for sharing automation across your business. This new service is the official location to discover and download supported Ansible content collections. And these content collections also contain ways to consume automation, as well as giving you guides on how to implement into your infrastructure as well. Then Automation Analytics provides a visual dashboard, health notifications, and organizational statistics across different teams using Ansible. You can analyze, aggregate, and report on data for Ansible deployments and see how your automation is running in your environment. All of this giving you scalable execution by extending our original Ansible Tower offering to support automation whenever and wherever you're going to need it. So Ansible goes beyond the standard configuration management offered by other tools. It gives organizations the ability to automate and deploy and manage your entire IT footprint. 6 common use cases that we see are orchestration, configuration management, application deployment, provisioning, continuous delivery, and security compliance. And Kevin is pretty good with this stuff himself, will tell you that and remind me constantly that audit is also key. Now, orchestration, it's the automated configuration, coordination, and management of computer systems and software, including provisioning the server instances themselves. Config management, allowing the user to install and manage software on existing server instances. For example, installation of packages, starting with services, installing scripts or config files on the instances. Application deployment automates application release cycles throughout testing to production, including continuous integration and delivery of containers. Provisioning, setting up and configuring the necessary hardware and software to activate a customer's requested services. Continuous delivery, progress code through each stage automatically with minimal human intervention. And the final one here, security threat response, or I should say security compliance, allowing an organization to collect data about security threats from multiple sources and respond to low-level security events without human assistance. And what is even more important is that Ansible does not have to act in isolation. You've got a phenomenal holistic automation tool, but you can additionally link it into tools such as ServiceNow, so you can monitor and manage, contain and run things as service requests and events as well. Now, the theme I've been talking about here is about building a culture of success supported by automation technology can help teams work together. Now, to share knowledge, build skills, create innovative solutions. Together, these changes should lead to automation for all, and you can help your business or any business achieve more. Now, earlier on, I mentioned the Forrester Wave, and I said that there were 4 leaders, BMC, Microsoft, Red Hat, and VMware. And I said I'd come back to one of those. One of those is Microsoft. Microsoft are now a customer of Red Hat, and they use Ansible automation themselves. In 2019, which was when we were last able to hold the physical Ansible Fest, Microsoft's Bart Dvorak, the network software engineering manager for their internal infrastructure and operations, gave a keynote. And one of the things he said is on the screen there. Adopting Red Hat Ansible automation has not only changed how our networks are managed, but also sparked a cultural transformation with our organization. And I think that's a pretty powerful message coming up from Microsoft about a solution that Red Hat is offering to all of our customers today. Now, Bart was speaking specifically about networking. His maturity model, though, can be applied to other domains and even organizationally. As you can see, automation is a journey. It's not an event. It builds slowly and deliberately from a crawl to a walk to a run. Transformation doesn't happen overnight or even from buying a single product, but by proactively laying out a strategic blueprint and empowering your people to work openly and collaboratively. And you're not alone on this journey. Simplex and Red Hat can help you. If you're looking for consulting, training, and support for your automation journey, just speak to your Simplex team and ask them about the Red Hat Automation Adoption Program. Together, we can work to deliver some pretty smart solutions in the automation arena. What we would do is we would typically have a discovery engagement followed by 4 3-month increments, one for each phase of generic technology adoption approaches. Go through discovery with subject matter experts, meeting with your teams to run interactive sessions to understand your use cases and maybe define an MVP functionality that makes sense to launch in your particular environment. Beyond that, you go into a pilot. A cross-functional adoption team will look at piloting the adoption, and Simplex, supported by Red Hat, will provide subject matter experts to guide you through the processes with hands-on mentoring. This group will build out a set of workflows, they will validate them, and then launch them on the new automation platform running in limited production. You then move into integration, where the team will take the validated MVPs and they can create or extend the scope of the MVP to get additional business uses. Then we move on to acceleration, and the pilot team will transfer. The pilot team will transfer into the adoption core team, and they will drive broader adoption and define standards, and new use cases are uncovered, developed, and effectively released into the wild. And then optimization. We will look at team dynamics and methods to promote positive experiences with automation. We can look at identifying the types of tools and rituals that work best for your environments and how your automation scenarios can evolve from there. And we look at a very customer-focused community of practice where you will help us drive and work to the best outcomes for your particular environment. If you want any information on this, again, please reach out to Simplex. But really, building Red Hat success with Simplex for consulting, training, and support for digital transformation is core to any automation story. And that is me. If you've got any questions, I didn't see any coming up, probably now's the time to answer them.
Thank you for that, Neal. That was really, really interesting. What I'd like to do, as I say, we'll take some questions as they come up. Could I just ask for the panelists to sort of come back onto the screen, and maybe we just have a little conversation about that and some of the things that might have been sort of drawn from that. So Deb, I don't know if you can take the spotlight off. Be a bit easier for us to and for the viewers to see us as a group. What I was quite interested in was Neal, you mentioned the fact that, and I think from your presentation, this clearly for people that might be thinking about automation, this is very much a journey, and it does sound like to me that there's sort of, as well as the, if you like, the technical issues and everything else associated with implementing that, this becomes a bit of a cultural change to how organisations are going to work. And I was going to ask Darren, just maybe Darren, you know, what your sort of insights and views on that sort of stuff is with regard to the way that we need to train and to skill our workforce going forward, and maybe, you know, sort of what's happening with those demands for automation skills, and is that sort of is that on the up?
Okay, there's an awful lot to unpack in that question. The upside is that, yeah, we're you know, even over the last 4 to 6 weeks within QA, who are well known for being the UK's leading tech training organisation. Our RPA focus started around 12 months ago. Obviously, we were looking at trends in the marketplace and had seen the amount of growth that was predicted both through 2020 and beyond. 2020 has been a mildly interesting year to not play it down. But funnily enough, for us, the demand for RPA certainly over the last 4 to 6 weeks has increased dramatically. Both from direct customers of ours that have predominantly been within the public sector, but also through our GSI partners, and by extension, typically opportunities coming in from the insurance and the F&A space. And I think there's a number of things that could be driving that, and there's a whole bunch of research out there that says why that could be driven at this particular moment in time. We're certainly seeing the implementation of these particular AIs within the function of enhancing self-service offerings, really where we're going back to online platforms that can better serve both your employees and your customers, your external customers. So our public sector organisations, the projects that I've just mentioned on with our GSI partners, are very much focused on this idea of customer experience. And I think to answer the question of why now, I think it could be pointed at by a variety of reasons. Certainly, the unfortunate byproduct of being in the pandemic is that unfortunately there have been layoffs. There are organisations that have either had to make redundancy or are possibly now thinking about alternatives to redundancy. And I was speaking to a customer the other week, and they had a very interesting take on the debate around, if you were to go back 12 months ago, perhaps, that RPA, the debate was how RPA and AI was somehow costing jobs. I think at this particular moment in time, what's really interesting is that these gaps have been created through some of the unfortunate circumstances in which we currently live, and RPA and this demand for RPA is now filling those gaps. So in the short term, we're seeing tactical RPA projects certainly coming our way for our consultants to engage with in both short-term and long-term projects to fill those gaps where there are headcount gaps in organizations now, where they've become very lean, and they're now looking to the true benefits of RPA.
Okay, that's really interesting, and I think that is something also I think we as an industry need to be very conscious of. If with this message, as you say, some of the things that people are thinking about automation, is it taking away jobs? I mean, if we're now sort of replacing, or using automation to sort of fill gaps, we've also got to think about when the economy returns, how organizations can take advantage of the automation they put in place, but also it doesn't necessarily sort of restrict the fact that companies and organizations will want to grow and bring skills back in to allow people to do different jobs, maybe higher value jobs and things like that. So I think that's quite
completely.
That's quite important. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to say, sorry, carry on, Dan.
No, Paul, sorry, I was going to say exactly that's what we experience. We're incredibly excited around how these RPA implementations shuffled the talent around organizations, and that we certainly have a very optimistic view that RPA shouldn't cost jobs, that it will in fact create more highly skilled jobs, not just within the areas of RPA, but where jobs potentially are at risk. We're certainly supporting and having conversations with organizations around how we can help reskill those individuals at risk, so that we can potentially keep them within your organization and move them towards other areas of high demand and low supply, such as software engineering or DevOps. So we see it as a very optimistic time for talent.
Okay, and Gowri, from a Wipro perspective, looking at the the sort of the broad client base you've got, what are you seeing with regards to projects and solutions that are being sort of worked on for around automation?
Well, Paul, actually, in terms of Wipro, so we are adopting this technology to automate our infrastructure delivery and create and promote the DevOps culture in the enterprises levels. And this Ansible is a very powerful tool which has built-in modules, playbooks, and most of the hardware vendors, they are promoting their playbooks and built-in modules for their automations. So for as an admin and as an end user and as a developer, adopting this technology is much simple, and they have to promoting this into the ground level engineers also very easy for us, actually, because only thing is they have to cross culture themselves on the how to learn the playbooks and how to modify the playbooks, and not necessarily to be depth on the each of the technologies. So in modern world now we have on premises and cloud technologies, and we are working on a multi-cloud technology. So irrespective of the technology, what the infra sites or the development sites, if we know the concepts of the terminologies, like how to build a service, how to uplift or scale up the servers, and how to shrink the servers, then once we are familiar with the terminology, and with this Ansible playbook, we could able to easily play around the things and automations and the new budding ground level L1 and L2 engineers to pick up those jobs, and efficiently they can cross platform work, and that enhance the productivity, simplicity, and which takes easy and change the cultural adoptions in the organizations. So that is what the real benefit I'm seeing, and it drastically reduced the manpower requirement to to deliver the service, and that is a efficiency I could see on this tool.
Excellent, thank you. And I see, Neal, you're nodding vigorously there. Does that sort of ring true? I suppose that's exactly what you want to hear about.
Absolutely. It is, Paul, and Gowri's right. The fact that even sort of the most junior people can actually get to grips with the ability and functionality of Ansible so quickly is very, very true. I mentioned what the British Army are doing, and that's a great example. It leads itself directly to what Gowri just said. So it's a very strong tool, and the fact that as I said in the deck, we've got the key players from the hardware manufacturers, networking companies, etc., investing their time to deliver playbooks, which we can then leverage and provide as part of the solution as well. It's a very, very compelling story, and I don't think there's any other truly holistic automation platform tools out there which has the breadth that Ansible now has.
So again, I was going to ask you another question that maybe the others will also sort of maybe have a view on, but I was quite interested in your presentation. You had the Forrester wave. There's Gartner and Forrester obviously do a lot of these sort of metrics and assessments. And I was interested if you had organisations that maybe using some form of what I'd call these sort of early generation sort of automation that showed up on that graph, the puppets and Micro Focus and that sort of stuff. If they're looking at wanting to sort of get more value or improve what they've got, is there an easy path for them to sort of take on something like yourself, with the Ansible product and, sort of take advantage of where you are in that market segment?
There is. In fact, I've got a very funny and very true story. I was with a customer a couple of years ago, and we were talking about Ansible, and they said, yeah, we use it all the time. We use it to actually automate the stuff we've done in Puppet and Chef, because they're actually using the two other technologies as well. So we all laughed, but they said, yeah, because Ansible actually can help us deploy, and because of YAML, which is a human readable language, it's much easier to lose. They don't have to leverage extensive Ruby and Python coding in order to get running, which is what what the likes of Puppet and Chef rely on. It's a very, very straightforward, easy to use, easy to adopt automation tool. And when it comes to pricing as well, you look at pricing and people will argue over what the overall cost is, but each use case is different, and you can't just say and publish a price and say that is what it's going to cost you. As a company, Simplex will engage with Red Hat and we'll look at what the customer wants, and we'll ensure that the right offering is put forwards, and that's how we better work.
Just to add to that, Paul, I think, thanks, Neal. I think a lot of people start with community, and that's where is their playground. I think where things become a little bit dangerous for organisations is when the playground becomes live, and they haven't stopped to think about the implications of automating using community product in a live environment for the enterprise. And just draw you back to the 3 points I made in the opening comments about uptime, IT operational uptime, security and compliance. And whilst it's a great playground and a test, and in non-high risk, non-enterprise areas, automating with community is a good way to get up and running. Once you get into the world of user profiles, disk provisioning, device and virtual server provisioning, when you get into the world of updating 100 routers across the world with the same profile config in an automated way, remember that the community product is made up of source code which is visible to everybody, and therefore anybody can contribute to it. And therefore, if you don't know what's in it, you don't know the ingredients, and you're not taking personal responsibility to check that, you've just created the biggest potential security risk for your business. So, it's fine using it, and whatever vendor you work with, Red Hat or otherwise, move away from community when you get into the enterprise usage cases, move towards a vendor that can offer you that security support. That'd be my words of wisdom.
No, and obviously that does sound very, very wise words, and ring true certainly from sort of my experience. So thanks for that, Kevin. I do appreciate that. I mean, maybe bringing Darren back in there as well in terms of the different technologies that there are in automation. How do have you got any views that or thoughts about where where that skill set is going, or where your demand, where you see demand for those skills?
Well, the 12-week training pathway that our early careers individuals currently go through, I will speak directly on behalf of the RPA practice lead by saying that it's built to be quite tool agnostic. Mm-hmm. It just happens to use UiPath as its tool set. There are other tools available, Neal and Kevin. Certainly, the development for us in terms of where we're taking our consultants on that journey is not just to be developers, but also to be consultants, to have consultant mindsets. That means it's very important for us that these people can hit the ground running, not just in terms of developing code, but also in terms of being involved in the process of identifying which processes should be automated in the first place. So we're very much trying to build a very practical, pragmatic approach to developing these early careers individuals that are then available for deploy. I think tools aside, with the acceleration of these tool sets, we're certainly interested in the evolution of our RPA pathway into places that can integrate with APIs, things like chatbots and lots of other directions in which the world of automation is taking us. So we're always interested in remaining leading edge in the 12-week content that we train. But it's going to be an exciting time, no doubt, for RPA over the next couple of years.
It certainly is. I'm sure you're absolutely right. And we have got a question that's picked up on. There's been a couple of questions in. One of them, I think, was about how the impact of the pandemic has sort of put pressure on companies and how automation has can help businesses. And I think we answered that to some extent with regard to the your experiences and what we're doing. Another question, maybe for Neal, just someone's sort of interested in terms of, along with the Ansible and the Ansible Tower products, what other DevOps tools are used within your automation framework? Is that something you can answer quickly, or I don't want to take too much of the time away from other discussion, but sure. If it helps someone on the call, that's really helpful.
I can answer extremely quickly. Obviously, Ansible, everything I've talked about today is included in one easy to consume offering, so that everything there is there. We do have two additional offerings. There is Red Hat Advanced Cluster Manager, or management for Kubernetes, which is a bit of a mouthful, but that is the offering that comes out with OpenShift to help you manage your clusters and application lifecycle. So it helps you on the deployments around that from an automation perspective, but also outside of the DevOps side of it, we do have our smart management, which goes with the Linux technology as well, so you can patch, upgrade, etc. your Linux environments as well. So that's really the tools that we have. I can't think of any others. Kevin, can you?
Sorry, I was on mute. I just come back to Darren's point around APIs. So the ability to interface to other IT products and technologies beyond those things that were already Ansible out of the box. I think we have solutions that can help around those. It's probably worth talking about, Neal, and I'm going to say you're probably more qualified just to name them than I am.
Freescale and the like, but from an automation perspective, I think we just stick with the RHACM and what we can do with smart management, because everything else is automatically configured and in the box. When we start talking about the API side, we're starting to evolve out into the middleware environments as well, and then we start talking about API integration with Freescale Manager and what that can do as well. So we then broaden out, and you think about the 3 tiers of our portfolio I spoke about earlier, we then sort of stretch out into one of the other areas as well. So it's a pretty compelling story, Red Hat, and it would take hours to go through the whole story.
Yeah, no, that's really helpful, and thank you for that, Neal. And Kevin. I've got one final sort of perhaps question to sort of take us really through probably to near the end of this session. And it's again, it's prompted by a couple of questions that have come in. I think a lot of people watching today may have found this session really interesting, but actually may still be perplexed about, well, this sounds great, but what am I going to use automation for? And I suppose, I wouldn't mind just going around the panel and sort of seeing if there's any advice, insights as to, if I wanted to implement an automation sort of solution into my organization, what sort of processes would I be looking, where's the value, if you like, proposition in what processes do I prioritize? I know we've talked a lot, there's been a lot about, as you say, sort of automating, rollout of updates to multiple servers and routers and things like that. But what, again, just generally, any views on what you think the priorities are to help?
Yeah, I'm happy to leave off.
Yeah, start, Kevin. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think Neal alluded to it earlier on when he mentioned it in his presentation. I'm very passionate about audit, and the reason I'm passionate about audit is not because I like audit. It's because when you look at provisioning users into your organization as an example of automation, it's something that could be quite simple for somebody to do manually. It's something that might be obvious to automate, but being able to go to nth degrees in terms of provisioning virtual servers, provisioning the right applications based on the user's profile, making sure they have the right data storage available in the right place, make sure that the IT that they need is placed on order automatically and shipped to the address that's on the HR record, all of those things at the touch of a button, to be extreme. They're the things which reduce risk for the business, because it reduces human interaction that costs money. However, the reason I'm passionate about is audit is what happens when that person leaves the business. Who decommissions all the logins, the user profiles, the access to the data that individual may continue to have for months afterwards if one thing is missed. And when somebody comes and says, did we do that and did we do it correctly? How do you prove that's happened? And one thing automation gives you through Ansible is the ability not just to automate the provisioning, not just to automate the remove everything, but also to document and audit it so that that's available for audit time when someone says, but there was a breakage in this, wasn't there? We didn't yes, we did. And there's the file that done it, and it's all automatic. So I think a lot of increased pressure on businesses to have robust processes in place that reduce the risk for the organization and to be able to audit and prove it. That's where automation comes into its own in my mind. You're on mute, Paul.
Always one time, isn't it? Darren, have you got any thoughts on that?
I think there was some great stuff there from Kevin. I think we have, if anybody really wants a more detailed answer from that, and this is probably where I would bring my practice lead in, we have a host of use cases that can perhaps inspire and provide more information to organizations that are thinking about implementing AIs, and be very happy to pick up those conversations and plug in some of our practice leads.
Thank you, Darren. That'd be very useful, I'm sure. And Gowri, have you got any thoughts from your end?
From my end, so first we need to ideate. Actually, the first preference, I will pay attention on the infrastructure automations, because the more DevOps culture, the cloud nature, we have a lot of options to automate there. But if we infrastructure elements, if we prioritize and automate, then that will ease the enterprises' jobs to pay focus on the modern developments and developing the new applications through the modern technology. So that will ease the future for them.
Excellent. Okay, and that sounds good. As you say, if you can work on that, I think, as you say, it is the future, and we will get used to it and wonder how we used to do it manually before, I'm sure. And I suppose just closing out there, and Neal, have you got any other sort of thoughts or additions to what you've already said and been very comprehensive about?
I don't think there's anything to add. Everybody's been able to cover off the other areas that we would have considered, or to expand upon how DEC evolved. I mean, the key message here is that, you know, this is a truly holistic automation tool, and it is a journey. You walk, you then sort of go through to your run. You've got to help define it properly, and Red Hat and Simplex together can help any customer look at what is their automation journey, what is the path to real automation within their environments, and how to get the best returns. So I would suggest to anybody who's interested is to reach out, Paul, to you and the team, ask for help. You know, it doesn't, the cost of a phone call is free. We can all have a chat, we can look at opportunity and discuss how we can all best work together and help your customers get the outcomes that they're looking for in their automation journey. That's all I would add.
Excellent, and thank you very much indeed for that, Neal. We are right on time, I think, in terms of just a couple of minutes to the hour. I'd just like to thank all of our panelists today just for joining us and bringing their insights and information and thoughts to the table. And I'd also like to thank everybody who's joined. Thank you very much indeed for your time. I hope you have found it, you know, sort of informative and useful. And so there's plenty of offers from the team here. You know, if you need any more information, to reach out. As I say, any questions that we haven't been able to answer, we will pick up and we will respond. And as I say, there will be a copy of this presentation available in the next coming days. So it leaves me just to say thank you very much indeed again for your time, and I wish you well and stay safe to everybody. And other than that, thank you and bye-bye.
Thank you.